I'm very happy to be talking to Graeme Hagan today. Graeme is one half of the Australian artistic duo the Hagan Brothers. The other half is his brother Joe. They make pop art and their work features anything from hand-painted Disney, Hanna-Barbera and video game characters to iconic pop figures combined in a cartoon magazine layout style. And they have studios in Australia and America. So hello Graeme, it's very nice to be talking to you.
It's a pleasure to be here, John.
So at what point did you decide that you wanted to be an artist, Graeme?
Well, John, my father is an artist and he's been painting for the last 40 years. So I sort of grew up around art and around seeing my father paint. And it's always been a natural extension of where I've sort of come from and what I've sort of done. So after I finished school, I sort of took it upon myself to take it more seriously. And after I finished school, I painted with my dad full time. He sort of taught me the ropes of traditional art. My background is taught in traditional art, a lot of impressionism, romantic paintings. So I sort of lived with my father in San Diego, California for about 3 years and painted there in the traditional field individually. And yeah, it's sort of grown into a sort of animal in itself, and I sort of from the traditional field, it sort of allowed me to paint other subject matters, pop art subject matters and stuff like that. So that's where my brother came in. He sort of took over the pop art area. So we've sort of bounced ideas off each other and made something work in the traditional and pop art field.
Right. And did your dad ever give you any advice about being an artist that really kind of stood out for you?
Yeah, basically Dad always used to say to us, don't be too precious about your art. There's a lot of artists out there that are too precious about the art they produce. They get too clingy on their own art and don't really want to let it go. So Dad said, don't get too precious about your art. You're always going to grow as an artist. So that painting that you just finished, you might be very attached to. You'll paint one soon after that, you'll be attached to even more. So just to know that you'll always improve and always get better and better. And as an artist, painting is half of the battle and marketing is the other half. So just to make sure that you're in it for the right reasons, but you're also looking at the other way in terms of getting it out there and making it visual and making people enjoy the art. Because it's one thing painting it for yourself, and it's another thing painting it for other people to enjoy. Right.
Well, what's your impression of the Australian art scene at the moment?
The Australian art scene is very divided in that sort of it's in a crossroads between contemporary art and traditional art. For example, I took a art tour out with some of Australia's best plein air artists. Casey Seeley is one of them. As they express, there is a divide between contemporary art and traditional art, and the fact that galleries, say on the eastern suburbs, exclusively only show contemporary art or abstract art, and that traditional art is sort of taking a hit to that. Right. But I think where we are, in the fact that we're trying to sort of merge the two. So a lot of our art, there'd be a traditional element into it, so a traditional style to it. Sort of, for example, like an Alma Tadema piece would be mixed with a Bambi or a Mickey Mouse. So in that terms, it's sort of trying to blend the two and try to make a bit more of a grey area instead of it being totally divided in terms of you're a traditional artist or you're a contemporary artist, and that's where the buck stops there. So,
and do you find that's the same in America?
No, in America, I find that in galleries, you'll see traditional art hanging next to contemporary art, and there's no, and it's welcome like that. Yeah. It's not unusual to see, highly contemporary art next to a Pinot or a Pissarro or something like that. There's no hiccup in it. But in Australia, you don't see that. You walk into a gallery and it's only exclusive contemporary or it's only exclusive traditional. So in America, there is a grey zone, and that is a lot better for both the artist and the gallery, I'd imagine, because you're sort of covering all bases.
Is that thing of Australia catching up, or is it just something that's just entrenched in Australia?
I think it's entrenched in Australia to a certain point. I think it's entrenched into Australia to the fact that they're trying to market their own particular style too much. You know, there's nothing wrong with having two styles of art in the gallery or anywhere in between that. But I think that the two may be stuck on to having one particular style and catering to just one particular audience where yeah, there's nothing wrong with, you know, someone in their home having a contemporary piece next to a traditional piece. It's, at the end of the day, it's art, and art should be enjoyed by everyone, and it should be accessible by everyone. So I think it goes both ways, John. But yeah, at the end of the day, like it'll come around, and it'll eventually catch up to the American market in terms of the variety of art that's in a certain gallery.
And do you have to be in America and Australia, or would Australia be able to support you on its own, do you think?
Personally, like from my experience solely, my dad was an Australian artist. He lived in Australia, painted in Australia, but he moved out of Australia to go to the American market and sort of hasn't looked back since after that.
Right.
So he sort of ingrained that into me. But that being said, as a traditional artist, and from, like, say, if you're a traditional landscape artist or a traditional figurative artist, the sort of feedback I've gotten for the main honchos of traditional art in Australia is that they are taking hit, and they are finding it difficult because, as I said, galleries are just shutting the doors to them.
Wow.
And it's not good, because traditional art in Australia is amazing. You know, some of the best artists that Australia's ever produced are traditional artists, like Arthur Streeton, Norman Lindsay, and stuff like that. So I personally would not feel comfortable putting all my eggs in the one basket, so to speak. But that being said, though, like there probably are artists out there that are doing very well. But yeah, like as I said, the Australian artists are some of the best artists in the world. And
so if I was an art collector, who should I be looking at in Australian art?
In Australian art, John, to tell you the truth, I haven't been keeping my ear on Australian art all that much, because nowadays, you know, since the internet, the world's become a much smaller place. So yeah, I just know a lot of artists from a lot of places, but in terms of probably too many. But in terms of Australian art, like in terms of the traditional field, you know, you got artists like Casey Seeley, Warwick Fuller, and artists like that are just doing great things in landscape art. But you also got other artists like that are doing great things in the sort of graffiti and pop art as well, like Ben Frost, but he's more overseas and stuff like that. So yeah, I'm not too you know, it's art's totally a subjective sort of thing. So I can't say my style will sort of bounce off any other person's, you know, interest. So I'm not too sure. It's totally up to the person and what they sort of want in their own living room. Yeah.
How has it been establishing yourself as an artist in the wake of your father's success?
It's been up and down, John, I have to admit. I've been fortunate enough to sort of ride off my father's success in terms of getting into galleries and stuff like that. Like I was showing in the galleries he was showing in when I was 19, 20, when I painted. So like hanging up next to Pissarros and Pinots and stuff like that, who are sort of my big idols in art. But since my brother and I are getting into our own style in terms of pop art and stuff like that, that has no relevance into what my dad's built up in the traditional side. Yeah. So we've sort of had to work from the ground up there, which is fine. But yeah, it's helped in my own traditional art, in my own learning of art. But in terms of the marketing side of the pop art I'm doing with my brother, it sort of has zero relevance, because you are working from the ground up, because it's a totally different market.
Yeah. Do you think that the success that you've had in the traditional art, do you think that is making it easier for you with the more contemporary stuff, just in terms of it's not new ground, you know, you've sold work, you've had shows, you know, it's familiar to you, that you know, will make it familiar for you with the contemporary stuff as well, you know?
Yeah, for sure. I think that you know, you sort of know how galleries work, right? How galleries work and the sort of dynamics of a gallery and how they should be representing you. You know, there's enough galleries out there that unfortunately take advantage of artists and stuff like that. But knowing how an art gallery works in the best places up in Aspen and Beaver Creek, and how they go about treating their artists and how they represent an artist sort of puts things in perspective when you're approaching a gallery, say in Melbourne or Gold Coast or somewhere in Australia, and how they should be treating you as an artist and stuff like that, which is quite different in itself, because in America as an artist you get looked upon highly and stuff like that, and art in America is more developed as a culture and stuff like that. In Australia, it's obviously in the contemporary field and in the pop art field, it's ever growing evolution at the moment.
Right.
So yeah, it does put things in perspective, which is good. But as any artist says, it's always a bit of give and take, and just to get the foot in the gallery is the start, and then working an arrangement from there so everyone benefits is another thing. So yeah, it sort of educates yourself and prepares yourself to approach galleries in a new scene.
Right. I'm curious about your working method with yourself and Joe, because I know, like for myself, the painting part is the last part of the process, because the idea for the painting will kind of, press itself on me over a period of time. And at the beginning, it's very non-verbal. It's more of a feeling for me anyway. And I haven't a clue what it would be like if I had to try and convey that to another person. I don't have to do that because it's just me. But so how do you and Joe like work together? Like how does it happen?
Oh, it's not easy, John. I'm not going to lie. There's been a few blues, just to say that. But well, for starters, like at the moment, like I just started a piece today. We just think of a subject matter that would appeal to people. So at the moment, John Wayne is one that I'm working on at the moment. So I'm more in the traditional field. I sort of take care of the traditional elements. Right. And my brother takes care of the pop art elements, sort of the 2D stuff and the 2D icons and stuff like that. So I will sort of suggest a traditional element that I've seen somewhere, I've seen in a book. So I'll like that posture of that lady. Let's somehow work that into a painting. Right. And then my brother will sort of take it from there. He'll sort of mock something up that we think works. So then it'll come back to me. Then I'll say, yeah, let's change that or add this, take that away. And then eventually down the line somewhere, after a few arguments and a few bit of name calling, we'll come to an equilibrium somewhere and both agree on something. But both agreeing on a preliminary sketch is one thing, and then the process after that is another thing.
Do you put it together on the canvas, or do you like collage it together first, or do you Photoshop it together first, or how do you? Yeah,
well, like this day and age, I'm a traditionalist, but I'm not a purist. So we do everything we can to sort of help us. So, like with the cartoon stuff, I'll pick something out and say, let's get this in there. He'll get it in Photoshop, and we'll try different styles out and see if it works in terms of color tone, contrast, balance, and so we'll definitely mock it up. But that's just the preliminary stage. So after we mock it up, we'll get it on the canvas, start painting it, and then who knows what's after that. So the silver leaf, gold leaf, paint dripping, and different methods of applying the paint that will sort of work into that to change the style.
Right. And does each painting have a predominant, are one of you more predominant than the other in each painting? Like, that's kind of my idea and you get the last say, or is it always you both have to agree?
Not really, John. Like, sort of because we're always working about 3 or 4 paintings at the same time. There's always about 3 or 4 on the go, which is, I find that my dad's, like, I've got that totally from my dad. It is the best way to go in terms of painting, because you don't get caught up with one area. You can step back from a painting and see it in a new light. So, if I'm coming to the conclusion of one painting, Joe's working on another already, so we don't get too precious on it. We'll both look back at it and say, yeah, I think that works. Let's say 1 or 2 things here and there. But it is a collective process and a collective decision at the end to say when a painting is done.
Right. And does your dad share your gallery, your studio in Australia with you?
Yeah. So he paints around the block and stuff like that. So yeah, it's sort of a mixture of things. He occasionally keeps an eye on things and suggests things to change here and there. Like the one we're working on now, he suggests to change the color of the figures and what to put in there, which is always the grand thing. One of the first paintings we did was called The Becoming, which is a big piece with Ronald McDonald in it.
Right.
And yeah, that piece we sort of bit more than we could choose, so he had to come in and to help us finish it off. So he has a lot of play in it, and what he says we don't question at all. So yeah, he's basically spot on in everything he says, but he is reserved to give his opinion on some things. But yeah, when he does,
his opinion.
No, he's reserved to give his opinion on some things because he knows that he sort of wants to find our own style and stuff. But in terms of the technicalities of painting and like creating the right lead into painting or the right lead out to a subject matter, he does keep an eye on that and make sure that at the end of the day the painting works as a visual piece.
And do you give him feedback about his paintings?
Occasionally, but it's very softly spoken. not that he won't accept it, but it's just I'm still very much a student, John, and there's a lot of things to learn. In the traditional art, you don't get your head around the whole process of it until you're about 40 years old. Like it is, like the pop art's one thing because you're not having to develop distance or color theory or perspective and stuff like that. When you're painting traditional, all that comes into play, and the contrast and the light, and you are painting off the cuff. So it is a much more developed process, and that's a process that I haven't fully mastered yet. So I'm not very comfortable in telling my dad things that don't work. With that being said, though, John, my dad has painted a few paintings where the cows or horses have had 2 or 3 legs, and I've had to point out that that cow's missing a leg and stuff like that. So it's that kind of stuff I could sort of nudge him into.
Yeah, well, that's true, isn't it? Like, because a fresh pair of eyes is a fresh pair of eyes. It doesn't matter if you haven't got a clue about art or painting or anything like that. Because, like, I'll be working away on something, and then I think it's brilliant, and then I'll say to my wife Maggie, "Oh, come and look at this," and she'll look at it and go, "What's wrong with that leg?" And of course, as soon as it's pointed out to you, you're like, "Oh God, how did I not see that?"
Well, that's where it helps, John. When you're painting 3 or 4 paintings at the same time, you can put one painting away for a week or two, then come back to it, then you have a totally different perspective of what you just did. So that process definitely helps quite a lot, and like we're really big on that in terms of painting 3 or 4 at the one time and just juggling them just to keep the perspective in line.
So do you and Joe have a way of working through conflict when it arises, or do you just bash through it?
Yeah, John, if it was 4 or 5 years ago, I dare say there'd be no painting getting done, as sort of used to hold grudges against each other, but now we just get on with business. So yeah, we'll just put it away. Then we're pretty plastered now, John, so we're a bit more mature. So yeah, we'll just somehow work our way through it, and in any relationship, in any field, there's always a bit of give and take. So you just got to know when to give a little, when to take a little, and when to sort of let things ride out, and let the other person, make his mark on the painting. So there's no issue about that. At the end of the day, it's a bit of art, and your own choice might not be the right one. So yeah, that's where Dad comes in. Like, you get him over, and he'll tell you which one's right.
Oh, he's the final arbiter, is he?
Yeah, the final one. Yeah.
Very good. What's your sense of the art business? Are galleries on the way out, do you think, or are they just going through a change, or how do you see it?
I think the art industry is changing a bucket loads, John. I know that in Santa Fe, in the traditional field, something like 60% of the galleries closed the last 3 or 4 years due to the economy and the global financial crisis and stuff like that. There definitely has been a shift since I started painting when I was in 2006 to when I started painting now. In the traditional field, there's been a massive shift in terms of acquisition of art and art that the galleries are going to display and stuff like that. They're not the buying market has sunken a lot. But that being said, the buyer market is still there. It is smaller but they are spending more. So they're spending more of the paintings they want, but they're not buying the mass amount of art that's out there like they used to. So my dad's seen it firsthand how much the market's changed. But I think that's where you sort of have to be a chameleon and change with the art market. So my dad, for example, was getting more into contemporary art now to sort of stay updated to the scene and just keep with it. And that's where I have no problem doing the same thing, which is why I'm doing it with my brother. I can paint traditional art, and then the painting next to mine is one of my brother, which is more pop and contemporary, and it's just catering for two different markets, which are ever changing.
Right. I had Ashley Longshore on the podcast a couple of weeks ago, and she's completely anti-gallery, doesn't want to give them the 60-70% that they take.
Yeah.
Thinks, with modern social media, everyone should just deal directly with the artists themselves and collectors themselves, and there's no need for galleries anymore. Do you think that's what's going to happen?
I think like any artist will tell you that there's no other market in the world where an outlet can get merchandise for free. And at the end of the day, it's only the art market where a gallery can have a whole room of merchandise for nothing if it's all on consignment. And that's not right. It shouldn't be like that. I've always worked on in the tradition for the wholesale price, which works. It's perfect for the artist, and it's perfect for the gallery. The artist gets paid when he finishes the work. It gets paid up front. Then the gallery gets the art for a better price, and they're more encouraged to sell the art because they've already put the money down. So, a lot of artists get stuck where they give art to the gallery and it just gets stuck in the back room for 6 months, with not getting shown to the public. So, yeah, it's a catch-22 there, John. Like, I think all artists should look to get into the wholesale.
Right. I hadn't heard that before. Is that do a lot of galleries do that?
Only the serious ones, John. Like I can't say a lot of the pop art galleries and the galleries in the contemporary field don't really, because they are a younger owner gallery. Like a lot of the owners of the galleries are much younger, and they only own one outlet or stuff like that. But a lot of the traditional areas where the gallery owns as a franchise, they might own 5 or 6 galleries, and there's a lot more money behind them to do it.
Right.
And they're more into the business of art. They're more into just moving art instead of the facade of being an art gallery, or being an art gallery owner. They're more into the business of art, which is much better because, end of the day, an artist can't paint without the painting selling. So it is much more beneficial to everyone. So like in terms of the galleries we're in traditional art, we work mostly off wholesale, which works. Yeah.
So what's the difference? Like, how much of a discount is the wholesale price?
The wholesale price. So for a gallery, it'd be a 3-to-1 markup instead of a consigned piece, which is a 2-to-1 markup. But the gallery would be expected to pay for the frame, which is a lot better for the artist. So the artist, if you're working with a consignment piece, as any artist will tell you, the framing kills you. The shipping to get the painting kills you, and you're out of pocket before the painting even gets on the wall. So, for a developed artist at a gallery that wants to work and wants to sort of get on with business, they'll buy the stock outright, just rolled up in a canvas rolled up, and take care of the framing themselves, just to get it on the wall immediately.
Okay, so when you say 3-to-1. If it's finally being sold for $1,000, let's say, you'd get $250. Is it? Is that the way? Is that what you mean?
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, 300 or a bit more. Yeah, 300, 350.
Okay.
Yeah. So, and they'd be expected to buy more than one. So you'd sell them 10 at a time. Like that. Like, you can't just go and buy one. You'd have to buy in bulk. And that's why a lot of developed artists work. It's only in the contemporary. I've noticed. It's only in the, at least in Australia, you're not going to find any galleries that do that at all. They're hard pressed to just pay for rent. But it's how it should work. It's how every other industry works, and then I can't find a reason why art should be any different. And it shouldn't be. Yeah, art's a very fragile industry. So if the gallery thinks they can sell a piece of art and get it on the wall, they should put their money down and improve that.
Right. And you don't think now you would be better getting the €1,000 considering you're actually doing the work? $1,000.
In terms of selling it.
Yeah. Like if you, like really, like I'm not saying I agree or disagree with this, but say the Ashley Longshore's kind of perspective is, well, you've done the painting, you've, spent the years learning to be an artist, and really the only difference between you and the gallery is the gallery has the list of collectors.
Yeah.
And, why shouldn't you get the $1,000 instead of only $250, whatever,
Yeah, I 100% agree with that, John. But end of the day, it's the presentation of things, and a person wants to walk into a gallery and see the perceived value of bit of artwork. So obviously, if you're a reputable artist and you've sort of made your name, you'd get a lot more collectors contacting you off the bat, requesting art, like straight from you. But if you're trying to make it to that stage, you really do have to go with the gallery way just to get your name in there, just to sort of show that you've been in that gallery and shown there and had exhibit here and there. So it is a process to get to that stage. But that being said, social media and the sort of internet has changed things here and there. But end of the day, people are most comfortable buying off the gallery than they are straight off the artist if you haven't sort of hit that stage.
Right. How important is social media for you, you and Joe, or for the Hagan Brothers as a brand?
Yeah, it's definitely important, John. I'm not a big social media guy myself. Joe's mainly the guy that pushes me to sort of get back into it and get into all that. But it is important. It's probably like looking at some of the art that's out there now and how big artists have gotten for the work they're producing or the skill of work they're producing. Some would say that social media is more important than the actual art you're producing. Which is crazy. It's sort of, that's how much the art industry has changed, where social media is probably more so important than the quality of the art that you're making. So, which is a bit of a shame, but that's the way the cookie crumbles, I suppose.
Are you thinking of any particular artists in specifically there when you're saying that, or?
Oh yeah, for sure. There are artists out there which I wouldn't give two hoots about, which I think are absolutely are doing a commendable job in terms of the agent and not pushing them out there and making a hype for them. I'm probably not too comfortable saying who it is, but
right.
It is happening, and any artist that's in the industry can see that. You can see a painting that for example, there's art out there. I was in San Diego not long ago. Art out there where a G Clays was sitting there, and 2 splotches of paint were put on it, and they were selling it as an original artwork for $20,000. And
right.
Any artist that knows the process of art knows that that's purely all hype. It's at the end of the day, it's
right.
a lot of it is like that.
Okay. Now, I don't know if I'm pronouncing this right. Can you tell me about Notre Chauvet?
Okay, Notre Chauvet was... So my brother and I were originally going to... we originally labelled ourselves under a different name because we really wanted to get into more of the street art and sort of... Not really stencil, but getting stuff on the walls and stuff like that. So, in a lot of countries, all that's illegal. So we sort of wanted to sort of safeguard ourselves in case we were going to get into that. But the more we've sort of developed as artists and sort of developed as a partnership, we've sort of come to the realization that we enjoy doing paintings on canvas and showcasing them in galleries and showcasing them properly and varnishing them, and the whole process of having them on a wall instead of having them in the street and stuff like that. So that was the sort of intermediate name that we gave ourselves just in case we wanted to sort of go down that alley. Yeah, there's a lot of artists, like Banksy and stuff like that. They sort of have to sort of tiptoe around that to make sure they don't get pinged up.
Oh, okay. I think though when you get big enough, you get asked to come and do like a mural, a big, on the side of a building or whatever. I don't know if you know the Irish artist Conor Harrington, but
Yeah, yeah.
he's he does both. He has the canvases and he has the big murals.
Yeah, he's an amazing artist, that guy. I love his work.
Yeah,
And
he's
his wife's
great.
work as well. What's his last name? Well, yeah, no, like I'm in awe of his stuff, and I think his stuff's amazing. But yeah, eventually when you get to that stage, you do get commissioned to do bigger pieces and stuff like that. But I think,
Yeah, and plus you don't get arrested.
yeah, that always helps. That always helps.
Yeah.
But
But
yeah,
the
we'll just
in the
sorry.
description of this Notre Chauvet, there was a whole thing about caves, and I
Yeah,
thought that was
yeah.
quite.
No, it is an interesting backstory to that. So that's my brother and I were up, we were arguing a lot about what we should call ourselves, and we sort of asked my dad what he reckons, and he sort of mentioned that you should sort of link back up to the roots of where arts came from. So the Chauvet caves are the first caves or the second caves in France that were sort of recorded as being visual art. There were handprints there, there were pictures of ancient buffaloes and animals back in the Stone Age. So that was the first recording of visual art. So
And do they predate Aborigine art?
I think they did, or they came soon after.
Okay.
They're definitely around that area. So yeah, so obviously not trace in French sort of means art. So we'll sort of our historical of time, our recording of what's happening in society and stuff like that. So like we sort of like to play with the political side and sort of reflecting on what happens in society and stuff like that. So it was a natural extension to sort of, as a name, to sort of go for something like that. That being said, though, it is a great name, and we'll probably pick it up somewhere down the future for something. But maybe a range of paintings that we sort of dip back into that sort of era. It could be an option, but yeah, it's
Right.
still not dead. But yeah, that's sort of the origin of that name.
Did you have you done a clothing collaboration, or did I
Yep.
get that wrong? You
No,
have,
no,
yeah.
that's right. So we've sort of been, my brother and I, my dad in general, we've sort of had a very mixed background. So I, I started painting straight out of school for about 4 or 5 years. With my dad, I was going really well, exhibiting in galleries with my old man. And then I sort of, that's all I knew was painting. So I sort of took a break from that, took a step back. I got into a bit of film editing and film in the film industry. My brother was the same. He sort of went into fashion. So, so he started a label called Death Sweet, which is a fashion label in Melbourne, Australia. And yeah, that was the sort of start of the Hagan Brothers, so to speak. That was the sort of
Right.
instigation to sort of come together and think creatively and produce artwork for T-shirts, and produce artwork for a theme. And that was the original concept behind Notre Chauvet and behind working together. So, but since then, I've sort of pulled away from that and I'm working purely on art. My brother, he's still working that, but he's also working on the fashion on the art side as well. So they do go hand in hand in terms of working together and working creatively in the same
Yeah.
area.
Your dad has made a couple of TV shows, and you're just saying that you've got a bit of background in the TV. You thinking of making TV shows yourself, the Hagan Brothers?
John, I'm extremely shy at all this. Like, I definitely can't see myself being in a TV show unless it's Jerry Springer. But yeah, it's sort of I'm extremely shy on camera. That being said, though, my brother and I do have a video coming out that sort of explains the dynamics of how we work and how we go about things.
Right.
But yeah, in terms of being a instructional, a teacher and stuff like that, I don't have the bravado of that like my dad has. So I'm not as comfortable in front of the camera. I'm much more comfortable behind.
Right.
John, yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, it's my last question. It's a question I ask everyone. If there's one thing you could pass on to future generations, what would it be?
It would be find an artist that you like, that you're inspired from, and dissect why you like that artist. Find the true core of why you like his paintings. this is what my dad's told me, and it's very true. Sort of, like for example, the artist I look up to is Pino, and I have his book next to me whenever I paint, and I look at his artwork when I'm, having trouble with a painting, and I sort of think to myself, why do I like his paintings, and what is that bringing?
Right.
Bringing. So I'd say find an artist that you like and sort of dissect why you like it, and try to run with that, and you'll soon find your own style from there. But yeah, I have to say that in terms of the sort of the meaning to paint would be my advice. In terms of the marketing of painting, it'd be just to keep at it, and end of the day, yeah, just keep trying. Like there's a lot of galleries are lucky to have you, so you got to look at it like that. End of the day, they're not going to make any money without the artists, so you're just as powerful as they are.
Very good. Okay, so how can people find out more about the Hagan Brothers?
Well, on our website, haganbrothers.com, Instagram at Hagan Brothers, and you can follow my traditional art at graemehagan.com. So, yeah, we're sort of all around the place, but we'll get back to emails, and yeah, just give us a Google. We'll be there.
Give us a Google. Very good.
Yeah. It's all about the Google.
All about the Google. All right. Well, it's been great chatting with you, Graeme. It's very refreshing to talk to a younger artist. I hope you don't mind me saying that, who's got such a kind of got a good sort of practical head on your shoulders, and yet you sort of I can tell you're still kind of exploring your creativity and willing to be a student, which is great. So yeah, thanks for your time. It's been great chatting with you, and all the best for the future.
Thanks, John. It's been an absolute pleasure, mate. I love to take the time out to have these chats. Thanks, mate.
Thanks, then. Bye, Graeme.
Thanks, John.
I've never felt this good in my entire life. Make me some spaghetti. Yeah, we are the Argyle Pimps. So buy us a drink. We're better than you thought, but not as good as we think. We are the Argyle.